AI is everywhere. And I feel like every other day I'm getting an email from another platform that I utilize saying that they've integrated AI into their platform, whether it's Canva, Tailwind, which I use for Pinterest, even ClickUp, my project management tool, is now integrating AI into their platform. And the list could go on and on. So you can't escape it, and you're probably seeing it everywhere. But is it something that you should be utilizing in your organization? How could you utilize it in your organization? And what is AI even? There's so many different ways that it can be leveraged, and good ways and in bad ways. So as we're talking content this whole month, I definitely wanted to make sure that this was something that we addressed on the podcast. So it's always changing. Things are always shifting. And I know there's more and more tools that are coming out there, but these are some best practices that you'll be able to consider when it comes to utilizing any of these tools, because they can be an amazing time saver. So to talk us through some of the AI stuff, my guest today is Scott Bywater. Scott is one of the most sought after marketing copywriters in Australia, who runs what many regard to as the biggest high-level private marketing group in Australia, Elite Marketers. He is the creator of the online Simple Email ROI System course, and over the past 21 years, has written for gurus and leading companies, including Kerwin Ray, Jay Conrad Levinson of Guerrilla Marketing, Merkle.com, and The Learning Annex. He's an in-demand speaker who has presented at James Schramko's, I'm saying that probably totally wrong, Super Fast Business, Dale Beaumont, and Ben Simkin's Masterminds, and is on a mission to help coaches, consultants, and course creators leverage their most undervalued asset, their email list, without being pushy or salesy. And you know that I'm a big fan of leveraging your email list. So we are so excited to talk through AI. He drops so many great nuggets of information, things to think about. And I think that you'll find that AI doesn't have to be scary. It's not your foolproof, full fallback resource. It's not going to write everything for you, but it is a great way to get you moving forward with your content strategies, with your website strategies, with your copywriting, all the things that you've got going on to save you a little bit of time so you can get more done and keep increasing your impact. I hope that you love this episode, and I would love to hear what your favorite AI tools are. So make sure you share them with me. We have linked up in the show notes all of the tools that Scott mentions that are his current faves, and you can check those out at thefirstclick.net/205 in the show notes. So let's get into the goodness. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by our digital marketing therapy sessions. If you want to spend 30 minutes one-on-one with me going through some of these tools, strategies, how you can leverage them, get some things done, get some roadblocks pushed out of your way so that you can keep moving forward with your digital marketing and keep increasing your impact, then go to thefirstclick.net/office hours, snag a 30-minute session with me for just $75, and we'll get together and talk through whatever it is that you need. I'm here for you to help you keep moving forward. Again, that is thefirstclick.net/office hours. Let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern. Each month, we dive deep into a digital marketing or fundraising strategy that you can implement in your organization. Each week, you'll hear from guest experts, nonprofits, and myself on best practices, tips, and resources to help you raise more money online and reach your organizational goals. Hello, and join me in welcoming my guest today, Scott Bywater. Scott, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Sammy. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're working on time zone stuff because if you haven't noticed from his accent, he's from down under. So you're calling in from Australia. What time is it there?
So it's actually quite reasonable today. We're about 8:15 in the morning. So yeah.
Oh, not so bad. And it's about 5:15 here in Minnesota. So we made it work.
Yes.
I love it. And that's, I think, the beauty of digital marketing and all of these connections. It just kind of makes the world a little bit smaller.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we're talking content creation and AI today. I don't think you can do anything in this world right now without having AI things pop up in your face, whether you realize it or not. But for people that maybe don't even know what that means or kind of how that relates to content marketing, could you just start off by explaining what AI is in this context?
Yeah, so from a copywriting context, what AI basically allows you to do is to, if you feed it the right inputs, is to write a lot of the copy for you. So what it basically does is it goes out there and it's scoured the internet, and then we'll take all of that information, and if you give it the right prompts, it'll automatically come back with the right content for your business.
So how is this something that you got interested in? Like, why does AI kind of excite you in this space?
Yeah, so I mean, it started last year when a colleague of mine, he's like, oh, you should check out AI. And I was like, oh, this was before all the hype, right? All the hype which we've seen with ChatGPT over the last 2 or 3 months. And I was like, I'm not real certain of it. I'd played with a few things, and then I started playing with a tool called Jasper, which he was using. I was like, this is actually really good. Like some of the outputs are quite incredible. And so I dived in, and it does. I think one of the real advantages of it is it can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you as a writer, and particularly if you're a non-writer, because the big things that sort of scare people, like I'm a big fan of email marketing because I think it's the biggest untapped resource that most and whether it's business owners, non-profits, it's just like this massive untapped resource. But most people don't do it because they don't know what ideas, like they can't think of what the heck do I actually write about is number one, and B, they sit down and they just stare they get the blinking cursor syndrome. So they get the combination of those two, and it stops them. And according to litmus.com, email, and this is particularly important for nonprofits, right? Because email gets a 36-to-1 ROI for every dollar invested. So if you're a nonprofit, then this doesn't require additional spend for the most part. Like you obviously got to, there's some additional spend in sort of resources to get them written, and you'll have to pay for a CRM, but it's very minimal when you compare that with paying $5, $10, $15, $20 a lead to run Facebook ads. And often if you're established, you've been doing it for a long time. So what the AI does is it will brainstorm, like it is brilliant at brainstorming. First, understanding your clients, like understanding their fears, their pains, their desires, their beliefs, so you actually know what to write about. So that's number one. But number two, then brainstorming, well, what should I actually write about? So based on these fears, what topics can I write about? And then when it comes to writing, if you have the right frameworks, and we invested about 20 hours to get the framework right so that we could actually punch out these emails. But if you've got the right frameworks, it can just build out some really sharp emails for you.
We didn't even talk about this before we got on, because email marketing is like my most favorite thing. And I agree, the most underutilized resource that nonprofits have, because they have a huge database of people already and that they're not talking to on a regular basis. So I love that you brought this up as a part of content creation. I agree with that. It's amazing. So let's talk about first. You said the fear of, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And let's kind of talk about that through prompts. So the prompts are key, right? In how we get the right information out of AI. So how do we want to think about the way that we ask the questions or craft kind of the results that we want?
Yeah. So prompts are really critical, and I guess there's two types of prompts. There's what I call sentence starters. So, and you can do this within Jasper. This is quite easy to do. Not so much within ChatGPT, but if you're writing something, and then you can write the next line, you can say something like, for instance, and then just hit the sentence starter, and it will continue writing for you based on what you've written above. So it can be very powerful when you're like, oh, I don't know what to write about, and it gives you those sort of ideas. Now, they may not always be spot on in terms of, like, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And that's why you can go back, you can edit it, you can play around with it. But it's much easier to edit something than it is to write something from scratch. So some of the other prompts which are really powerful is, for example, after you've written something, and this could go, if it's a piece of content, it might be a headline. If it's a email, it'll be a subject line. But you can then do a command and say, hey, write me 12 subject lines for the email above. And it will literally, within 10 seconds, you'll have like 12 potential subject lines. And then you can go in there and you can pick the best one. Now, as a professional copywriter, I've been doing, like, I have one client, they've got a list of about 2 million people, and I write email subject lines for them all the time. And I still use this as a tool, not necessarily that I will necessarily use the subject line as is, but it's like a brainstorming buddy. It gives you so many ideas, and then you just go, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that. And then you can pull it across into your subject line, which is your headlines and your subject lines are the single most important thing in a piece of content, because if it doesn't get opened, nothing gets read.
Right, nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters.
Well, I love that you're saying this, because a lot of times if you're in a small to medium-sized nonprofit, or as an entrepreneur, if you're just starting out, you might be a team of one, or you might not have a marketing person. And there's something about creativity when you're just by yourself. Like, this is something I struggle with all the time. Like, if it's just me, like, okay, yeah, my ideas are great. But when you hear things that are coming from another resource, it does help to spark creativity and things that you might not have thought of on your own that just make sense in that moment.
Yeah, 100%. And if you think about it in it really gives that, that leverage. Like, it's like when the factories came in, right? And you could put it in a factory and they could create all these sort of things without individually each person doing it by hand. So it's a similar sort of thing, because for me to sit down and come up with 12 ideas for a headline, that's going to take maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to brainstorm that properly. But if AI can do it, AI could literally come up with 50 ideas within a minute. So,
right.
so it just speeds up that process from which you're doing everything. And it doesn't mean you have to sound like a robot, or you don't have any personality with your emails, because you can go in there, you can edit it, you can change it, you can put your own stories in there, all of that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as a copywriter, I'm sure when you work with clients, you come up with language guidelines, or like the way you talk about your brand, the way you talk about, because some people are in more sensitive topics, and so they have to be more particular. Some are in lighter topics and they can have more fun and play with their language. So how important is it to kind of understand your own voice before you start to use AI, so that it doesn't just kind of take over and you almost get kind of, I want to say lazy, but you're like, oh, this is great, I'm just going to copy paste, which we don't want to do. So do you recommend starting with your voice, making sure you're strong in your voice first before you start playing with AI tools to write your content?
Yeah, no, great question. What I think it's really important to do is to understand your own voice, but B is to understand the conversation going on in your customer's mind is really critical. So where I would start is sort of understanding, the customer's fears, the pains, their desires, the beliefs, the objections, the problems, all of that sort of thing, and using the AI to actually, brainstorm those ideas. Obviously, you pick them because you know your customer, they don't, but you can use it to brainstorm those ideas far more quickly. So understanding the conversation in the customer's mind is critical. I would also recommend getting really clear on things like your why, why you do what you do, because people connect with why you do what you do. As Simon Sinek famously said in his Start With Why sort of presentation, I think it was a TED Talk, people buy why you do what you do, not what you do. So I think that's really critical. And I think it's also just critical to get really clear on your uniqueness. because that's something AI could potentially help you brainstorm, but but it also requires quite a bit of critical thinking. So it's like you're working with the AI. You're not just punching it in, because the AI will only respond to prompts. Yeah. So you can go into ChatGPT now and say, write me a letter or write me an email for a non-profit company who wants to get donations from their clients, and it'll punch something out. But here's the thing: everyone can do that now. So everyone can do that. So you can do it, I can do it, everyone can do it. So, but it's the same with these things, right? So we've all got one of these, right? We've all got a
Phones, yep.
smartphone. So, and they all take photos. But if you give that smartphone to a professional videographer or a photographer, they will be able to take a way better photo with that, because they understand they've got the knowledge of how to actually use that tool. And I think it's very much the same with AI. If you have the knowledge of how to use the AI, you're going to create much better content, because it all responds to inputs. And if you get the inputs right, that's what makes all the difference.
So instead, it would be saying something like, write me an email for an animal shelter that's about to do a pet adoption campaign, or something like that. Like, be way specific in your prompt about who you are and what the goal is of the content you're creating.
Yeah, and also be really clear on these are the fears, these are the pains, these are the desires, these are the beliefs, these are the objections of the target market. Mm-hmm. So that's really powerful as well. So that's within ChatGPT. If you go across to Jasper, what you can actually do is you can even do it line by line. So you actually structure that piece. So it's very much around, you can do it like let's say a problem, like the copywriting principles, the problem aggravation solution type of model, or the Q&A type model. So the other day I got asked a question, how do you raise money as a nonprofit, via email? Well, let me take a moment to answer that now. So you can get AI to really, you can sort of direct it and really control it at a granular level. Or let's say the myth busting. Many people believe that to get more nonprofit money in, you need to be really aggressive. Nothing could be further from the truth. Here's why. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So you're going through and you're granularly controlling the flow of that AI. You're not just letting it run wild, because AI, it's a little bit like a chainsaw, I guess, right? So if you got a chainsaw, you can chop wood much faster, but you could also chop your arm off if if you don't know what you're doing. So so it's important to know how to use the tool before you just go in and dive in and use it.
Well, I think that's critical, because we are still people communicating with people, trying to engage people in the community and the cause that we're doing or supporting. And so I think, the more and more these things are coming out, people are going to really start to see and feel and understand that, like, oh, whoa, like, this isn't how you used to talk to us. This isn't what we're used to with your blog posts. This isn't what we're used to with your social media posts. So you can use it as that, like, quick win Band-Aid, but, like, I shouldn't even say quick win, as that quick solution. But you need to be careful with making sure that you're still showing up as who you authentically are, because people can figure that out.
Yes, absolutely. And I haven't played with it heaps, but one of the things that I'm hearing is working quite well is, like, let's say if you've written hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, or you've written a book or something like that, where you can upload that into the AI, and then it can start to talk more in your sort of voice. So, but you still need to give it very clear prompts, right? Either way, because it's not going to get exactly the message that you want to go get across in your head. Like, it's not going to just automatically get that. You've got to be very, very clear in directing it to get that, to get that end result.
Yeah. Okay, so what are maybe 3 or 4 ways that you see AI kind of helping jumpstart people's content strategy to really just kind of open up their creativity and allow them to kind of move past the blinking cursor and like the writer's block? Like, what are some ways that we might want to think about using AI to generate some ideas?
Yeah, so I think firstly, the ability to enter the conversation going on in people's minds. So, ask the AI, for your target market, what are their fears? What are their pains? What are their desires? What are their beliefs? What are their objections? So you're really understanding your customer and creating like that. That's a framework you should have in front of you all the time when you're writing
Hmm.
copy, is being super clear and crystal clear on those facts, because then you're writing to what matters, right? Because the AI is not going to know that. So that's number one. Number two, in addition to understanding all that, is getting topic ideas for emails. So then you can plug that in and go, based on this is my business, this is my these are my customers' fears. Give me 10 topic ideas for potential emails, as an example. So all of a sudden it'll start spitting out those ideas. So then when it comes to actually writing, let's say the emails, but it could be content, social media content, it doesn't matter. The only thing I would be just red flag is if you're looking to get like SEO juice and all that sort of thing.
Hmm.
I don't know if I would just be aware that Google may have a way of being able to tell AI content. So you just might be want to just have that in the back of your mind if you're going to go down that track and look and investigate it. But then when it comes to actually writing the copy, then you're using AI to write the copy, and you're using a bit of man and machine, right? So you're also in control of it, you're directing it. But then, so the third way is to write the copy, and then the fourth way is to actually write the subject lines itself.
Hmm.
So how do we actually take that, and it's literally a simple command will be able to write those subject lines based specifically off those copy, and then you're using obviously your human brain and your understanding of your target market to work out which one of those is relevant.
Well, and what I love about this holistic view is like you can start with, let's say you want to start with a long form piece of content, you want to start with a blog post, you can have AI generate that. You can then have it generate, right? If I'm understanding this, generate then the email copy and the subject lines from that blog post. So you're really repurposing, it's helping you make and repurpose content so much easier because it can then help you generate social media posts from that content that you've created. So now this blog post that you're putting up is like going out all over all of your things, but you're really minimizing the time that you're having to create some of those base elements.
Yeah, and yeah, you can definitely cut up any of your pieces, put them in all different
Yeah.
spaces. There is AI now as well, for images. I think it's called DALL-E. Is like one of the
No, the AI, I have a problem with the AI images. They freak me out a little bit because
some of them.
they don't always, you have to be careful. They don't always show up quite right.
Yes, yeah. Not all AI images are created equal. So they can be really good, but yeah, they can be a little bit dicey at times as well. So yeah, you've got the AI images. I saw something the other day in terms of like AI where you can cut up videos and podcasts and all of that
Hmm.
sort of thing as well. So I think all of that, you don't want to be ignoring that because it just gives you economies of scale. Do you know what I mean? Where you can just get stuff done far more quickly. And why wouldn't you take advantage of that if it's going to save you as a small operator, where it's just you? If you can cut an hour or 2 hours off a task, like that's massive, right? Particularly
Yeah.
if it's a repetitive task. And likewise, your team, if you can get twice as much productivity out of one team member, or even 20 or 30 or 40%, that all compounds. And that's the way I think we need to be looking at at AI. Definitely in the short term. Over the long term, I just don't know what's going to happen. Like it in some ways it scares the heck out of me. What could potentially happen in the long term? But in terms of how you can use it today, it's a really powerful
Mhm.
productivity enhancer with obviously with content, but across the board.
Yeah, so we use a tool called otter.ai to do the transcriptions
Yeah,
for our podcast episodes, which has been around forever. People have been using it to record meetings. I mean, like it's not a new thing, but it's one of those where the more you edit and work within the platform, the better it gets at like really understanding the nuance of conversation and things like that. It still sometimes spells my name wrong, but we're working on that. But you mentioned Jasper, you mentioned ChatGPT, which I think is the one that's in the most mainstream, news out there. What other tools like are your favorite, or ones that people might want to consider when they're looking for AI? Because it's everywhere. Like I use Tailwind to schedule Pinterest. They have a whole AI platform. I have friends that have courses on Kajabi, and Kajabi will now write course outlines and all of that. They have their own AI. So I mean, like pretty much any tool that you have is probably got an AI platform built in.
Element to it. Yeah. So I mean, the main ones I use is probably Jasper, ChatGPT, Otter. I use Otter. Otter's fantastic because particularly for, I mean, that's another thing from a copy perspective, is if you interview, because it's much easier for most
Mm.
people to talk than to write. So if you interview within your business, if you could interview the CEO of the nonprofit and ask them 10 questions and get them to talk it, you transcribe it in Otter, and then you could use that as a foundation of all of your copy. So that's very powerful itself. The other one is Descript, which my wife
Mm.
uses a bit, which is very powerful for like videos, and you can sort of
Yep.
take something and move different parts of the video around and AI the voice in and all of that sort of thing. So that's quite good. And one thing that just when you were mentioning that what you're doing with the podcast, one thing I think would work very effectively for you is you could drop the transcript into the podcast into the AI, and then ask it to write an intro for the podcast. So I'm seeing that work really, really well as well. So particularly with
So it can write my show notes for. For all of the stuff that I've been using AI for. I've never thought about dumping the transcript in to write my show notes for me.
and get it to write your show notes. So if your show notes are taking you 30 minutes or something to write, right? And now they can take 5 minutes, like that's a 25-minute saving times, let's say you're doing 50 podcasts a year. That's like
Yeah,
15 hour savings, every single year, which is that's a strategy which is worth thousands of dollars essentially. So and it
for sure.
does. I know someone who's doing that, and it's very, very effective. So yeah.
Yeah, and the other tool that I want to throw out there, just because we're nonprofit specific, is Canva Pro, which is free for nonprofits. So if you haven't gotten that yet, you should absolutely get Canva Pro because it's free for you. And they have a Magic Write tool now that will also generate content and posts and information for you. They also have a bulk upload thing, which I'm not going to get into because it's a whole thing, but a way for you to create massive amounts of social media posts if they all look the same. So we'll talk about this maybe we'll do this on a blog post or something to show you screenshots. But Canva Pro is another one that I would definitely recommend. But otherwise, all the ones that you mentioned are fantastic and ones that we use also as well.
Yeah,
Love that.
yeah. No, that's awesome.
So the last question I kind of want to ask you before we kind of wrap this up is, what maybe are some things that either surprise you when you talk about AI to people that they don't know already, or some things that you think, like we don't know what we don't know. So what maybe don't we know about AI that might surprise us that maybe we want to think about researching and integrating into our businesses?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that surprised me with AI is when people haven't heard of it yet. So, yeah, even
Yeah,
so even with the Chat
it's true.
GPT, yeah, and all that, the hype, because I'm in the marketing industry, it's front and center. But my wife was chatting with one of her friends the other day. They're like, what's Chat GPT? They really weren't aware of it at all. So that always surprises me. The big thing, I just think we're going to see leaps and bounds over the next 12, 24 months, unlike anything we've ever seen in history. So,
Mm,
like, if we look at how quickly something like ChatGPT has caught on, and then it gets smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter. So, I think to ignore it would be very risky, both from a career
yeah,
perspective of not being on top of it, and seeing, because I think it's going to wipe out. I think it will wipe out a lot of industries as such. And I'm not just talking about from a content perspective. Like, I was a friend, and he's very much into it. He was sending me stuff the day, and he's like, it can write legal contracts. He
yeah.
sent me something of someone who they couldn't get their dog fixed by the vet. I think they went to 3 different vets. They put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT actually gave them the right solution. And they took it back to their vet, and they actually fixed their dog. So when you see, and this is in the early stages of AI, right? So if we go 2, 3, 5 years down the track, and it's compounding its knowledge, all these entries are going in. It's just, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating period in history, and I don't think anyone
Well,
can dismiss it.
no, we've used it before when we have a customer or client who wants some sort of really unique feature on their website that we haven't written code for, and it will spit out website code. I do have a colleague who works as a Salesforce administrator, and sometimes when she gets stuck now, she can ask ChatGPT, and it won't. There's certain things that it will and won't do, but it will spit out, hey, here's how you troubleshoot this in Salesforce. So I do think, to your point, like it's almost going to replace Google in some, not replace Google, but I think it will shift the way that we get information and learn and shift. But there are some limitations. Like, I think it will yell at you if you're asking for health. So it's interesting it gave you vet care stuff, because I have asked some like broad health and wellness things topics, and it's like we don't talk. Canva especially is a little bit more sensitive about certain topics where it doesn't want to give advice,
It's
because it
it,
of
it's quite like it says it's not political, unbiased, or any
right.
sort of thing, but it's actually quite political and unbiased, which isn't something I particularly like about it. But that's something that it isn't a great thing, but that is a reality of it,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right now. So, not so much with Jasper, I haven't found, but definitely with on the ChatGPT sort of side of
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Well, and we should mention that these resources are free as of this point, as of recording in the middle of April. And a lot of these resources have paid upgrades, but who knows? Again, as this flows, that the monetization of it is gonna follow
Yes.
shortly. And we know that search engines are also starting to build into their own AI. Google Workspace is starting to integrate with AI. So I think, to your point, keep your eyes on it. Don't get overwhelmed by it, but figure out how you can use it to your best advantage.
Yeah, don't be like one of my friends. He's like, it's like it's a drug. He's like, I can't sleep. I've been on this AI.
People are gonna. What was that movie, Her or whatever, where the guy started dating his smart device? So let's not get too attached to the AI there.
Yes, yes. And I don't think they're all free. I think ChatGPT 3 might be free. ChatGPT 4,
Okay,
I think, has a fee,
the
and
paid.
Jasper has a fee. Although
Yeah.
I think it is free. I think they have some sort of free trial or something like that. So yeah.
Well, and remember, as a nonprofit, always call, always ask what their nonprofit rate is, because many of them have nonprofit rates. So, Scott, this was amazing and fantastic. I love the way you broke all this down for everybody in a way that makes sense. You have action items, you all can just start with one thing. Don't try to do it all, but just start with one thing and see how it works. Any last, I mean, you've given so many, but any last words of wisdom? Otherwise, why don't you share with people how they can get to know you more and connect with you and learn more about your services?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I've got any last words. I think the main thing with AI is just stay on top of it, and start to actually just go in there and use it. Like, don't just go in there. Like, you can go to ChatGPT right now, and you can just go and start typing some things and just getting used to actually using it, because that will I mean, just execution is worth 1,000 words, right? So and if anyone listening would like to have a copy of my I've got some AI email writing cheat sheets. And what this includes, there's 3 prompts which allows you to whip up emails in minutes, even if you're a non-writer. And within that, you've got 5 jack-in-the-box openers designed to grab your reader's attention and draw them into your message, 5 solution prompts which get to the heart of what you're trying to say and show the reader how you can solve their specific problems, and 3 powerful commands to write compelling subject lines that boost your email open rates, or your your stop the scroll Facebook ads or content, or whatever. So if you go to simpleemailroi.com/AI, so that's simpleemailroi.com/AI, you can download that for free, and that's probably a good way to get kick-started on your journey.
I love that, because prompts are so key. I've learned that myself. So definitely play with that. We will link all of that up in the show notes at thefirstclick.net/205. So you can find all of those resources there, as well as all of the resources and tools that Scott mentioned in this episode. Scott, thank you so much for coming on and talking about AI with all of us.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thanks, Sammy. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the opportunity.
So after that, how are you feeling about AI? Are you excited to give it a try? Did not mean to make that rhyme, and now I did it again. Anyway, I have been playing with AI tools and have been loving and not loving all of the different options. So definitely something to play with. I hope that you'll start working on your prompts so that you can get better success and get more content and get more marketing out there for your organization. Again, all the resources are at thefirstclick.net/205. And I can't wait to hear how you integrate AI into your business. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen, and check out the video versions of these episodes at thefirstclick.net/YouTube. The videos are also embedded into the show notes to make it easy for you. But I thank you for listening and taking time out of your day to work on your digital marketing strategies. We'll see you in the next one.